So, maybe you listened to my episode on ancestral healing and intergenerational trauma, and something in you just recognized itself. Maybe you thought, that's me, that's my family. And then the episode ended, and you thought, okay, but what do I actually do with this information? Well, this is that episode. If you're new here or you aren't familiar with intergenerational trauma and ancestral healing work, you should go back and listen to my previous episode on it. It's about 5 episodes back. And that episode explains what it is and why we need to heal it. And today we're diving into how to do that. Welcome to Jotindi, Journey to the Inner Divine, a sacred space for healing energy, emotional release, and soulful transformation. If you're ready to live with joy, ease, and purpose, you're in the right place. I am so excited that you're here with me today. I know I do a lot of episodes about what and why, but today we're digging into the how. And I love these episodes because they give you real, concrete things that you can start practicing immediately to get those results. And of course, that's why we're all here, right? Today's episode is going to be so powerful and it's going to contain some really amazing guidance that you can use to start your healing journey today. So, let's do a quick recap about what ancestral healing work is for those of you who may have missed the last episode or just need a quick refresher. Ancestral healing work works on 3 levels: the spiritual, the biological, and behavioral. So, spiritual traditions, a lot of them believe that unresolved pain doesn't just disappear, it leaves an imprint. And that imprint can live in the lineage like an energetic echo. And in addition to this energetic imprint, unresolved pain can leave a biological imprint that can travel through the generations. And the study of this is called epigenetics. And it explains how gene expression can be turned on or turned off based on the experiences and the trauma that you or your ancestors have. But the beautiful thing is that epigenetics tells us what trauma can alter, healing can also alter. So this work is real and it's reversible, which makes it so exciting. And of course, there's the behavioral aspect. This is your coping mechanisms and the beliefs that you develop when you grow up based off experiences and things that people tell you. And those behavioral traits are passed down to your children and then their children and so on. So, now that we talked briefly about what ancestral work is, let's begin talking about how you can actually start making changes. So, the first thing I want to do is give you a little reframe. And this is one of the most important reframes that I can offer you before you take a single step into this work. And it also might be the most relieving thing that you'll hear today. Most of us come to this healing work because something hurts or because we are tired. We are tired of the same patterns and the same heartbreaks and the same invisible walls that we keep hitting over and over. And so we show up ready to fix it, ready to roll up our sleeves and get it done. And believe me, I love that energy. I really do, because that determination is what brought you here. But here's what I want you to know before we go any further: healing doesn't begin with fixing, it actually begins with seeing. And I know that might sound almost too simple. Like, that's the first step, just noticing. But stay with me, because awareness isn't passive. It's not just sitting around observing your life like it's a movie. Awareness is actually one of the most active and courageous things that you can do. Think about it this way: a wound has been in the dark for decades, sometimes generations. And it's never had anybody shine a light on it. It's just been there, quietly operating in the background, running the show without anyone questioning it. The moment that you look at it directly with curiosity and not shame, something fundamentally changes because you are no longer unconsciously in the pattern. Now you're consciously looking at it. And that shift, that tiny shift, is actually an enormous shift. And it is the first act of healing. The moment that you notice a pattern and you choose curiosity over shame, something in your lineage begins to move. So before we do anything else, we observe. And I want to offer you a few questions that you can sit with. And I want to make sure you don't rush these. Don't try to answer them all at once. Just let them percolate. Okay, the first one is, what emotional patterns keep showing up in your life? Not things that happen once or twice, but things that keep showing up again and again, even when your circumstances are totally different. Maybe it's always feeling like you're too much or never feeling like you're enough. Maybe you panic around money even when you're financially okay. Maybe you have walls that go up the moment somebody gets close. Whatever keeps returning, I want you to write it down. The second question is, where do these beliefs actually come from? Do they connect to a specific experience that you remember, or are you just honestly not really sure where they came from? Because sometimes we carry convictions, right? About love, about safety, about worthiness, and what we deserve. And when we really trace them back, we can't find a clear origin. They just feel like they've always been there, like they're just the truth. It's just the way it is. And that is worth paying attention to because sometimes the things that feel the oldest are the oldest. Maybe they didn't even start with you. For me, the one thing that I can't directly pinpoint in my life that keeps showing up is feeling like I'm not good enough. And I can remember thoughts like this as far back as my memories go. And sure, I can find examples in my life that would trigger a feeling like that, but it's not one specific moment. It's not one big trauma. There's nothing in my memory that really feels like it fits, like, oh, yeah, that's what started this thought for me. But what I do know about not being good enough, I know that my mother heard that a lot growing up from her family, that she wasn't good enough. I know that my grandmother was extremely talented, but never could quite find her place in the world, and her family really struggled because of that. Did she feel like she wasn't good enough? Did she project those feelings onto my mother, who inadvertently passed them on to me? I guess I'll never really know the answer for sure, but working to interrupt this pattern has done me a world of good. And you know what else? I've actually been able to share this healing with my mother and help her heal a little bit too. And that is a beautiful thing. And so I have one more question for you to ponder. The third question is, what family dynamics have you never questioned because they felt completely normal to you? Maybe it's the way that conflict was handled or avoided. Maybe it was the way love was or was not expressed. It could be the way that money was talked about or never talked about. Maybe the women in your family just showed up, or maybe they were expected to disappear. We absorb these types of things when we're so young, and we absorb them so completely that they stop feeling like patterns and they start feeling like just normal. That's just the way life is until somebody asks you to look again. So I want you to take your time with these, truly. Write down what comes up and then put it down. Come back to it in a day or two with some fresh eyes, and you'll be amazed. Something new almost always surfaces when you give it space. Maybe there'll be a memory that you'd forgotten, or a connection that you've never quite made before, or just a quiet knowing that's been waiting for you to be ready to hear it. So, as you move through your days this week, I want to give you one simple practice to carry with you. When a feeling comes up and it feels bigger than the moment, bigger than what's actually happening in front of you, Instead of pushing away or spiraling into it or feeling like you're overreacting, just get curious and ask yourself these two simple questions. Is this mine? Or is this older than me? And you don't have to have the answer right away, right? The question itself is the medicine because that question creates just enough distance between you and that feeling to remember you are not your wound. You are the one who gets to look at it. And that's a completely different thing. So for now, just notice, not to fix or to analyze or to solve, right? Just to see and trust that being seen, even by yourself, is already starting the healing process. Now, before we go any further, I want to offer you something, and hopefully, this will be a little bit more relief. Because one of the most common things that I see happening when people are drawn to ancestral healing work is this: the more they learn, the more they feel responsible for all of it. For every wound, every story, every generation that ever suffered before them. And that weight can become so unbearable that it actually stops people from doing the work at all. They just get overwhelmed before they even begin. And I do not want that for you. So I want to say this clearly right now before we go a single step further. It is not your job to heal your entire lineage. That was never your assignment. And the moment that you release that expectation of yourself, something in you will actually soften and open in a way that makes the real healing possible. Okay? We do not embark on a healing journey with the intention of crushing ourselves under the impossible responsibility of it. That's not healing. That's just a different kind of burden. And baby, you have carried enough. Your goal in this work is simpler and more powerful than you might expect. Okay. Your goal in this work is to interrupt the pattern within yourself. And that's all. And that alone is everything. When I started doing this work, I felt that pull so intensely. I wanted to deep dive into every ancestor's story that I could find. I wanted to excavate every wound and trace every thread and heal each one for them. And I was determined. And for a while, I thought that's what devotion to this work looked like. But the more I tried, the more I hit walls. Because the truth is, stories get lost. People die holding onto the last of their family secrets. Whole chapters of lineages disappear with time, and no amount of determination is going to bring that back. It's just not possible. And honestly, that's okay. Those stories serve their purpose in their time, and you don't need every detail to do your healing. Your body, your intuition already knows what needs attention. Your patterns are already showing you exactly where you need to look. So here is what you actually need to know going into this work. You don't need every ancestor story. You don't need to heal every wound in your whole family line. And you don't need to have it all figured out before you begin. You just need to heal your piece. Heal what's alive in you right now. The patterns that are getting in the way of you living your most beautiful life. The beliefs that are keeping you from the love and the peace and the abundance and the joy that is genuinely yours to have. That's your work. That's your piece of the lineage to tend to. And here's what I find so beautiful about this is that releasing the pressure to do it all is part of the healing. So listen to that again if you need to, because so many of us have inherited a belief that we have to earn our worth through effort and sacrifice and doing more, more, more. And sometimes the most radical, most ancestrally significant thing that you can do is to simply put that burden down. So just take a breath for a second. Let your shoulders drop. You are not here to save everyone who came before you. You're not here to excavate every secret or untangle every thread. You are here for your peace. And your peace is more than enough to change everything for you and for every generation that comes after you. Before you begin any ancestral healing session, or really anytime you feel that heavy weight of responsibility creeping back in, I want you to anchor yourself with this intention. And you can say it out loud, or you can whisper it, or you can just hold it in your heart. Say to yourself, I am not here to carry what came before me. I'm here to interrupt it with love. My healing is enough. My awareness is enough. I am enough. And say it like you mean it, because you do. And because somewhere in your lineage, someone has been waiting for you to finally believe it. Okay, so now that you have set a clear intention, you've been observing and noticing and identifying the patterns you need to shift. Now we can start doing some simple exercises that start moving us forward. And before we talk about specific practices, there is a caveat, and that is that ancestral healing work isn't a one size fits all. And people that are new to this work need to know that there are multiple valid doorways. There isn't a right or a wrong way to do this. And it's important that you listen to your inner wisdom and your guides on which entry point feels most aligned for you. So, here are 4 very common entry points. First, there's the somatic doorway. For those who feel it in their body, for those of us who experience tension or chronic tightness or emotional numbness in certain areas, you can start by simply noticing where you hold your stress and getting curious about its story. The second is the ritual doorway. And this is for people who are drawn to the spiritual side of ancestry work. You can create a small altar, maybe light a candle or put some photos up there, maybe an object that belonged to somebody way back in your family tree. Or you could start speaking their names if you know them and do a simple acknowledgement. I personally like to do guided meditations to connect with those who have passed before me. And there is no wrong way to practice your spirituality. You just do what feels right to you. Third, we have the intellectual doorway. And this is for those of us who need to understand first. This is where I started. I began by researching my family history. I found a website with extensive information on my family tree, like a lot more than I could find on ancestry.com. I spent a lot of time looking back at the branches and the names, and I traced where lines ended and where they're still going today. I asked my mom a lot of questions about her mother and her grandmother. And unfortunately, she's the only remaining member of my family with any information or connection to prior generations. And I wish I had asked more questions of my grandparents and my dad while they were still alive. But like I said, we don't need to know every story to do this work. You can also look for the patterns across generations before starting this work. Maybe your family has always had money but struggled with personal relationships. Or maybe you noticed that all the women on your mother's side of the family were extremely judgmental. Identifying those doorways and doing a little bit of research first can be your path through the intellectual doorway. And finally, the fourth doorway is the therapeutic doorway for those of us who need some professional support. There are some patterns that are deeply rooted and cause more than a general annoyance. Some of our family lines are plagued with mental illness or trauma or abuse or other debilitating patterns. And when you feel like there are things in your life that are severely holding you back, it might be time to turn to a professional for help working through them. And whether you choose a therapeutic pathway with a licensed professional or another form of well structured support like coaching, there is no shame in knowing that you need support on this journey. It is actually wisdom and it is very brave. There are modalities such as EMDR or somatic therapy or IFS, internal family systems. They're all very well suited to this type of work. In fact, ancestral healing is one form of energy healing that many of my clients focus on during our work together. But the main point is whichever entry point you choose, whether it's the somatic doorway, the ritual doorway, the intellectual doorway, or the therapeutic doorway, just know that there is no wrong door. It's just the one that calls to you right now. And you are allowed to switch at any time. And you can even try them all. Okay, so you've picked your doorway and you are ready to start working. You can start by setting a sacred container and your healing intention. And it's important that when you start this type of work, you know how to hold yourself safely. So, what does a sacred container mean? It's simply creating an intentional space, physically, emotionally, spiritually, so that you're not cracking yourself open in the middle of a busy, distracted day. Practical elements of a container might include things like a quiet, private space, doing some grounding work first, right? Put your feet on the floor, connect with your breath, or do a body scan. It should include setting a clear intention and not necessarily a goal, but an intention. And knowing that you can close the session at any time and come back to it again whenever you are ready. So, an example of a healing intention could be something like I open myself to what is mine to heal. I release what was never mine to carry. I call in the support of my healed and wise ancestors, my higher power, and my own inner knowing. I move through this work with compassion for myself and for those who came before me. And then when you're ready to close a session, you can simply say, I'm complete for today, and let that be enough. Now, when you get started in this work, I want to give you a preview of what to expect, right? The emotional landscape of early healing, because this work isn't always easy. You are being asked to look deep within yourself at the things that are the most difficult to admit, the most difficult to face in order to heal them. And sometimes the things that need healing come with emotions like shame and guilt or confusion and even anger. And it's important to be aware of this and be prepared for the unexpected emotions like grief to come up. Sometimes, once you identify a pattern, you start to see it everywhere in your family, in yourself, in your reactions. And these unexpected feelings can feel very disorienting for a few days afterward. But I want you to keep in mind that things change and no feeling will last forever. Just give yourself some compassion and grace and work at your own speed. This is not a race, and there is no finish line that you need to cross. When you are in the thick of it, it can be really helpful to draw on the other tools that we've learned throughout this podcast. Tools like EFT tapping, grounding, or doing some intentional breath work. That can really help you recenter yourself when you are consumed by emotion. And don't forget, it's always okay to close a session and pick it up later when you're feeling more balanced and ready to dig into it. Other times, after a session, you might feel an unexpected lightness or a feeling of not being alone anymore. Maybe you have moments of deep clarity about why you've done the things that you've done, or compassion for family members that maybe have hurt you in the past. Ultimately, this is the goal of healing. So when these beautiful moments come, welcome them in and celebrate them. But know that it might not be the end, and that feeling more before you feel better is part of the process. And it's not a sign that you're doing anything wrong. It's just a sign that something is moving, that energy is shifting, and that you're starting to disrupt patterns in the best kind of way. So, let's move on to some more actionable practices that you can use when you're feeling ready to take this on. I have 3 more simple practices to share with you that you can use to open yourself up to healing and discovery. First, there's the awareness journal. You can do this each morning or evening and just get out a journal and write what feeling visited me today that felt bigger than the moment. Where did I feel it in my body? If you could put an age with the feeling, how old would you say it is? Many of our challenging emotions feel very young because when we first have them, we are very young. And don't forget, you're not analyzing anything here, you're just tracking. This is just an awareness journal. The second practice that you can do is that when you notice an emotion that feels like it could be ancestral, place your hand on your heart or on your belly. Inhale for 4 counts, hold it for 4, and exhale for 6. And then on each exhale, you can say silently or aloud, I release what is not mine. It's simple, it's powerful, and it's available to you anywhere. And the third is guided meditation. YouTube and iTunes and Spotify, they all have a ton of free guided meditations that are going to help you connect to your ancestors and to your spirit guides and help deepen this journey for you. I really encourage you to search out someone who makes you feel calm and safe and practice doing their guided meditations at least once a week and just see if that helps. Now, your work doesn't have to end there. If this type of work is still calling to you, but maybe the suggestions I've mentioned so far aren't, there's one more thing I'd like to offer you. I'd like to extend a very special invitation to you. Next week, 1 week from today, we will begin the Oracle Within, a 5-day journey of reconnecting and remembering. It's a free 5-day event where we explore each one of your senses and how you can use them to reconnect to your inner guides, to your intuition, and to your ancestors. You will hear and see and feel the messages of your ancestors and the universe. Each day focuses on one of the 5 senses and teaches you how to interpret the messages that you're constantly receiving but might be missing. And our final day together culminates with a powerful integration ceremony and a special offer to deepen your work. So if you're feeling drawn to this, if this feels aligned, I highly encourage you to sign up right now at mariaharoura.com/oracle. I would be so honored to guide you through this. Ancestral healing is the pathway to breaking unhealthy patterns and family dynamics and freeing yourself and your lineage from intergenerational trauma. But keep in mind, this is a doorway, not a destination. You don't have to rush, and you don't have to do it perfectly, and you don't have to have it all figured out. Just beginning the awareness is already a shift in your lineage. The moment that you say yes to this work, something moves. And this work is so important and so powerful. And I am so excited to continue to walk this path with you. If you have any questions about this episode, or if there's another topic that you'd like to hear, please email me. My email is mariah@mariaharoura.com. You can find me on Instagram or on Facebook. And if you have found any value at all in this episode, would you please do me a huge favor and share this with somebody that you know? I would love to help as many people as I can and make sure that you subscribe so that we can continue walking this path to your own inner divine together. All right, I'll see you next week. And don't forget, there's no path to happiness. Happiness is the path.